Guys, we have two special guests today. We have Vicky and we have David. They're both from Minnesota, and their organization helps anyone who is going through and has been sexually assaulted or abused or trafficked. Say hello to Vicky. Vicky, why don't you introduce yourself first, and then we'll go to David.
Well, my name is Vicki Leckie, and I'm the executive director of Rising Hope Foundation. And we have a safe home that we built in Brainerd called the Freedom Ranch. And it will serve 8 girls at a time, ages 12 to 17, that have been freed from human trafficking.
When you say ages 12 to 17, that is a little disturbing. And at the age of 12, you have victims coming into you? I mean, is it open to everybody or is it open to just girls or boys as well?
Just girls, ages 12 to 17.
When you say 12, that brings a brings something to me where how, so how was this age determined, so to speak? Like, are there so many cases of such young girl abuse?
There is, and actually, they're starting to see that the average age of a trafficked girl is 9 years old.
Wait a minute. No, so you're not talking about abuse. You're talking about abuse and traffic at the
Absolutely.
now when you say abused, I what I understand, not knowing much about your industry, is abused is someone can be abused at home, someone can be abused by in school, or someone can be abused by a stranger, family, friend, stranger, anybody. But when you say traffic, you mean somebody is literally selling these girls at the age of 9 to somebody?
It can be anybody, a teacher. There really is no boundaries when it comes to sex trafficking.
Can you tell us a instance where you came across this young person and she was sex trafficked?
My name is David Leckie. I'm co-founder of Rising Hope Foundation. I'm thankful to be here today. Before I got into the Rising Hope Foundation with Vicki and worked with her to start this organization, I owned a trucking company in the United States. And with the trucking company industry across the country, I ran into a lot of this trafficking in the evening at truck stops and so forth. And it kind of really stirred me inside to want to do something to fight back against what I saw was just terrible things going on out there in the world. And so I would drive all day and go into a truck stop, have my meal, come to the truck, and maybe get ready to sleep for the day. And I would see a lot of times in the evenings or whatever time I got in the truck stop, cars coming in with young girls. And, they would allow these children, they would have an adult with them, a man usually, but with young kids, and sometimes very young as we're speaking, 8, 9, 10, up to 15, 18, or even older, and go around the truck stop and do what they do, unfortunately, with the truckers and so forth that you hear about sometimes, and not all of them. Truckers get a bad reputation, but sometimes it just takes one person to get that reputation. So that being said, I saw a lot of young girls, and in this industry, of course, it can be as young as 3, 4 kidnapping victim that's kept and groomed and until they're older, that's trafficked. And sadly, it starts very young in this country, and it's very sad.
David, when you say young and when you say 9 years old, that means I either this girl is their relative, sad to say, but daughter, niece, or kidnapped. Am I right about that?
When Vicki talks about being average age of 9, you have to have a lot of younger, really young children. And unfortunately, as we progress with this problem of human trafficking, that age keeps going down because the obsession gets stronger and stronger for the traffickers. And and the thirst, if you will, sadly, for that behavior just gets worse and worse. And that's why we need to fight back as organizations, as individuals, as caring people to make a difference and to start getting out there and spreading the word so we can be a positive light.
In my conversations with other organizations, I was speaking to them about why don't we educate our young, why don't we speak in schools and so on. But you just opened up another door altogether for me, where these are not even in school, right? These are just girls. I don't want to say just girls. I'm sure there are boys there too, but what you know and what I've heard so far is just girls who are being taken over to the truck stop, who could be anybody. And how do you educate a girl like who's not even going to school? How do you do that?
As a human trafficking nonprofit, and across this country, there's thousands of these. You don't have to just focus on education to educate. You can be in the housing area of human trafficking. You can be any type, whatever you're part of, as far as helping with recovery or education, whatever you're doing to help battle this human trafficking atrocities, you can educate. So you can make a request to go into a school, to go into an organization, to go into a business, to go into a religious organization. You can you can request to go in there and share what you know about this with people so that we can spread the knowledge.
What would be the first steps you would take to bring the awareness of this horrendous act that goes on in our country, um, with such young girls? Like, where would you go? Because this girl is not even in school. How are you going to teach her? She's definitely not going to church because she's being trafficked at the truck stop. So, how do you prevent something like that? How do you educate the girl?
Businesses can put things up at the counters. I think there can be signage in truck stops, parking lots. I think there's multiple things we can do to help combat this. There's a Truckers Against Trafficking organization that does a fantastic job. And what I would love to see is all of the thousands of organizations come up with some big conference where you get leaders from all of them together across this country, because it would be impactful, and where we could all come together and figure out, okay, what are the first steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, if it's education, how do we get in every school across the United States to start to let the young people know what to look for in grooming and all of these different things? So it's having maybe a couple meetings a year with 60, 80, 90%, whatever, of the organizations coming together and brainstorming as one, not one going this way and one going that way and one going this way, but coming together as a group.
In speaking with different organizations, I have learned everybody handles it differently. So, is there a governing body that can help all the organizations in the country come together, like you just mentioned?
I think if we could get the top 6 or 7 organizations that probably have 50% of the impact to lead that effort, then I think it could work, because the other 90% of the nonprofits that are battling human trafficking in the United States know of the top 5 or 6. So you would have that respect of the 5 or 6 leading the effort, and then it would be a pile on situation where, yes, and make it where it's an affordable conference, maybe in a central location, and maybe there would even be an organization or a company or a hotel chain that would host this at a discount or free in their facilities. But that's just my thought.
I agree with David. It takes a village to get something done. We were very lucky in Brainerd. We had an amazing village that stepped up to help and donate and contribute, donate materials, labor, everything that we needed. Um, but I agree, there has to be a collaboration of all of these different entities in order to make a bigger impact. social media is the number one way that predators have access to our children, including their cell phones. They are out there. So there really needs to be more aggressive targeting of these pedophiles online on different social media platforms. There's just a whole lot of work that needs to be done in the area of prevention.
When you say that we need more grants and we need more funding, is this funding coming from the federal government or is it coming from the state? Now, are there limitations to what you can do with their funding? Because yesterday I was told that you cannot do promotional materials with some of the funding. And if you cannot do promotional materials, then how are you going to promote your organization for the layman or for the person who is being abused to find out about you? And if they can't find out about you, then what's the sense of having this organization?
There are some organizations here in Minnesota that actually go out on the street and hand out cards when they find girls being trafficked to let them know that there's hope and there are places that they can go. But it's a matter of these girls being able to get away from their traffickers. And that's not an easy task.
What the government, state and federal, is concerned about in giving out the money is any misuse of those funds, and I get it. So they want to make sure if you're in the housing part of human trafficking, that those funds go for lumber, for windows, for labor, for that types of things, if that's what that grant or money is for. And same thing with education or rescue, or whatever part of the human trafficking. If you're Exodus Road, for example, in Colorado, they concentrate on trafficking overseas, and they're good friends of ours. And we work a little bit with them because of acquaintances in the industry. But if they get funding, particular funding, it has to go for that rescue efforts that they're doing. If it's street or educational or mainly focused on schools and meetings and education regionally, locally, then it has to go for that. So that's, I think, hopefully that helps answer. And I understand their concerns. And sadly, I think a lot of times it's justified. I think companies will abuse those funds in different ways if there's not some oversight.
Don't you think there should be some sort of a governing body and telling everybody, okay, this is what we do, we'll give you the funding XYZ, and it trickles down? Because this is an epidemic, in my opinion, and it's going on crazy in America, which being if I was a foreigner, I'm not, being a immigrant, didn't think that something like this could exist in America. Um, and now, since it's brought to my attention, I don't want to keep quiet about it. So, what, there's got to be something bigger than you and I. And I think that would be the government, right? So, how does the government, is the government an active player in this?
The previous administration was very vocal about human trafficking. Um, I don't know if you've seen the movie Sound of Freedom,
No,
but the US
I
is the
support.
biggest consumer
Sorry, what
of
was
human trafficking. And so to me, that should be a huge red flag to our government to say, what can we do? But we've heard nothing, we've seen nothing. I don't have the answer.
I don't believe it is so much a political issue, because I think in a lot of ways the funding is there, and in some ways it's been given over. Majority of it has been given over to the states, and each state has different representatives with different passions. So majority of all of the representatives, 90% of them are the same ones that were there in both administrations per se. So I think on a bigger scale, it's still there. But sometimes world things that are going on in the world, it occupies the time of government, And so being able to concentrate in some of the, sadly, in some of the side areas like trafficking and crime and other things takes second level when there's a world chaos going on in the world. You don't, sometimes they only have so much time as well. Now, I think reaching out to state representatives is a better way. Minnesota has several representatives that are very passionate about human trafficking on both sides of the aisle, per se, and just Democrat, Republican. Both sides have caring, passionate people. And those are the ones we need to be talking to, having conversations with. But I think there could be so much change. There's so much power with the organizations in this country and around the world that I think if we got together and just kind of bonded more and really, because if you have more people get together with idea sharing and then action plan and then action, it could be very powerful. And education is obviously one of the biggest parts of this whole thing.
We have designed our film in a way where it works as an icebreaker between the parents and the children, and hopefully after watching the movie they can go and speak and discuss things, because number one, it's not even discussed in homes, and we just like to turn our faces away from it. But getting the knowledge of the father was selling his daughter, that to me is really really disturbing. Like, how does that happen in a country of like ours? It's just unheard of. So if education is the right place, I don't care about what's happening in the world. I really don't. I do care about what's happening to our children in America. So why don't we make that a priority, and why don't we make that of teaching the kids in school and educating the parents?
Vicki, I'll share briefly, and please take over. I think it has happened, but not anywhere near where it can or should be. I
David, I would like to disagree with you, because if it had happened, then organizations such as yours wouldn't be exist. And the only reason why your organization exists is because there's so much trafficking and there's so much sex abuse happening. Now, can we eliminate that 100%? I don't know. But can we start to eliminate that in small towns, small states, and then grow from there? But I think it has to be an active effort, both from the private sector as well as the government, which I personally think the private sector, in my opinion, is doing what they possibly can, but funding is a huge issue there. What is the government doing? I would like to know that. I mean, I'm a very ignorant man and I don't know that. So I would like to know what the government is doing, whether it's this organization or the ones before. It doesn't matter. What matters is the girl is 9 years old and she's getting raped and she's getting sold. That's what matters to me, and I think that's what matters to everybody. So why do we look the other way?
It seems that commercials, TV, different organizations are targeting our children. And there is a movement among pedophiles where they want to not be called pedophiles, they want to be called MAPS, and that is minor attracted persons. And they are trying to change legislation to lower the age of consent to 9.
Serious?
Yes, you can look that up. And so,
What gives them the right?
exactly.
The organization is, I want to make sure this is clear. The organization is trying, not the government at this point, but the organization.
No, it is not the government. It is this specific organization. But they feel they have the right, instead of being called a pedophile, they want to be called a minor attracted person. And by lowering the age of consent, then it changes how they can be prosecuted. So it is a very big agenda that is going after our children.
Is this being done at a level where they're trying to write this as legislation?
Yes, because they feel it is a medical condition.
We are okay. Okay, great. That's a medical condition, but when I have cancer, I suffer myself. I don't have others suffering, right? So I am going to change the law so I'm protected by the law by doing the wrong thing. And which government is allowing that?
That organization is here in the United States. I don't know how far they've progressed, but that is their goal.
Can you share that organization again so we can what
Called MAPS, MAPS.
Every day I never walk away from interviews with a disheartened feeling. I mean, this is so incredible. This is so crazy. This is America? I mean, we understand. I understand. I come from a third world country myself.
It is disturbing. The children have become a commodity.
What does your organization do to help?
So the Freedom Ranch is a long-term recovery safe home. Depending upon the level of trauma for each individual girl, their treatment plan will be designed specifically for them. Some girls may recover like in a year and a half, some may take 2 years, some may take 3, some may take 4. We don't know because it's based on an individual treatment program for them.
How does a girl come to your organization?
Once we are ready to open, which will be November 6th, prior to that, we notify our county and state social service agencies so they know that we are open and able to take girls. We know from some social service agencies here in Brainerd that there are waiting lists for these girls.
So your organization is opening to help other children. I think that's an amazing thing. I think both of you and everybody who's involved in your organization are amazing people, my heroes. I think you guys are making a difference in the world. But isn't it happening after the fact? Because the organization is going to get girls from the police department. Police department is obviously going to get the girls after the crime has already happened. If the crime has already happened and then they notify you and they say, okay, here you go, take care of this young one, she's been abused. So how can a girl, or a girl in your case, get to your organization before it happens, before the police are called, before they are in the hospital? How can that happen? Because that is the answer. Not the answer is not taking, I think, not taking, you've got to take care of them because now it's already happened. You've got a hand, you got to help it heal. But what happened before the hand was cut off? Why can't we get there?
In the world we live in today, there is so much mental illness and crisis that all of these systems that are there to help people are very, very overburdened. And the term they use is, well, they fell through the cracks. And that happens a lot.
So our children are falling through the cracks. That's what's really happening.
Yeah,
And a lot of them are runaways.
and that's where it goes back to the education piece. Every trafficking organization has their calling, if you will, and some are where we're at, where helping at the other side of the tragedy. Some are the education pieces. There are organizations, lots of them, that do that, and there's some on the recovery side where they're going out there doing the rescuing, whether here or abroad, working with foreign governments, foreign police departments, changing laws in their land, rescuing children, and doing a wonderful job at that. So there's several different parts to this, and every organization has their part of it.
Is there a agency? I know that the police department has this. I believe it does. They have a sting operation where they try to intercept a trafficker trying to pick up a young girl. So how successful are they with that? And in that case, how, if you say, okay, education is too much of a shift in our culture at the moment and we shouldn't teach them about sex abuse in school, so how can the police department be more active in catching the crime before it happens?
That's a great point. I have a friend that works again. I'll go back to this organization because it's on that side of things. They actually go in undercover with a whole lot of high tech equipment and go right into and try to break up the organizations that are having, hundreds of girls that are, young, 10 to 16, 18, whatever, that are trafficked, whether foreign countries, but they'll go in there and also before they go into the sting operation, and I can share information with you when we're done or send you links to these organizations so for more research or interviews. But they go in there and talk to the police, the government, they tell them what they're doing, then they go in there and do their operation. They get the information and then they turn it back over to the police and the government so they can work together to not only break up that organization or that sting effort, but for ongoing, like we're talking about, ongoing support and ongoing knowledge, and not just stopping at once and then having, 50 more fill in that void, but ongoing changes that really can be more impactful long term.
Are there such organizations, or will I have to get in touch with the police department? I'm sure they must have a section there because I do want to know, and I want to know what how do we do it? Why do we do it? Why we know, but how do we do it? And how can we help in making it even bigger and more effective?
I have a wonderful contact with an amazing speaker that works with this organization that they've rescued thousands of girls. And I he's actually a lead singer for a band, but he also does undercover rescue in this country and overseas. And I'm sure his name is David Zach. I'm sure he would love to have an interview with you where he could share his knowledge on this particular part of the human trafficking.
I would love to do that. I should get the information and I will send them an email. Going back to your organization, so now the girl is in your place and she's been abused and now you are taking care of them. What is your goal as an organization? Um, what is your goal for this girl?
To bring hope and love and restoration to help her heal. We have built this home where it's a family environment. We have a live-in house mother, but it's teaching them how to live in a family environment with people that actually care about them and love them and want them to heal. It's very peaceful, it's very soothing. They will learn life skills, they will do online school. We're going to equip them with everything they need so they are ready to live a life that they deserve to live when they're done.
There are local businesses that are in support of your organizations, and are they willing to give jobs to these girls once you feel that the girl is ready to go out and earn a living?
We have many local businesses that have supported us and walked beside us and helped us build this home. There is a community college in Brainerd, and that's one of our goals is to help them figure out where their skills are and their gifts and talents and get them into school so they can get an education so they'll be able to live on their own. And our future goal is to do transitional housing. So when these girls are ready to leave, but maybe still attending school, we still want to be able to provide a safe environment for them. And that's why we want to do transitional housing.
That is amazing. I, I think that abuse comes from lack, and I believe, of course, the girl when she's 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 13, you don't know much of lack because you're totally dependent on your family, on your parents. But if some way somehow we found a way to educate them, not I don't mean education as in go to school, but get one of their skills to a point where they can use those skills to get themselves a job. And once they have a job and there's no lack of money, their mindset will change. So how active are we to do that with companies? Are the companies in full support of that? Do they shy away? Do they say no, no, we don't want to get involved?
We haven't had that experience. We have found everybody just very willing to see this home completed and open. Like I said, it takes a village.
There's one thing to have funding and support of an organization to be run a certain way, but there's another thing to say, hey, I will give that girl a job if she wants to be a filmmaker. And that is what I'm trying to get to, because yes, she's going to go through your love and care and she's going to be okay, but after that, how is she going to stand on her own feet? So I think we have two issues. One is that they're being abused at such an early age, and education is an absolute must, and I think we should fix it. But we should also fix the other end as well, where we are teaching them life skills of getting a job, holding a job, and living life like everybody else does.
The Freedom Ranch, and I think a lot of organizations kind of follow along in similar paths as this, have an aspect of life skills built into it where they're learning different things besides just the schooling in-house, which is safe, and it because of the trauma, it needs to be homeschooled at. I believe that's the best way, at least at first, to be able to have them get comfortable in their surroundings right away. And we offer, obviously, with the Freedom Ranch, we have equine therapy. So the horse, where they can build a relationship with those horses, groom them, feed them, take care of them, ride them, build that one-on-one, start to have that connection. Animals, so are wonderful for that. But also, we have friends in the mechanic industry. There's a community college that's in the area. Have people experienced in different types of jobs because every girl will have an interest in different things. So bring those types of experiences and people, those caring people that are out there into the organization to have conversations with, to say, this is available for you as you get older if you want to. So the young minds can start to imagine and see how wonderful life can be and see the opportunities out there, not compressed and confined and controlled, but opened up like a flower with all these opportunities and with genuine people that care, that want to see them go through and succeed. That's my heart in this whole thing.
We've already had some people that have came forward that are very open to taking on adult foster care, meaning they would be a host family for a girl if that's what she wanted. So I think our community is very open to jobs and just different activities and skills and training. We really haven't had any negative response from anybody.
Education is so important because once they know these girls are not, they're not trouble type of girls that are mean and hard in any way. They've just been groomed, they've been put in bad situations, some on their own a little bit, maybe not, but some. But they've gotten there. That's the past. Let's look forward.
Make a mistake, David.
Yeah.
I know I do a lot of times. I have and I always will. I'm human.
And you know what? We all do. And they just need to be shown opportunities and what life can be like. And you know what? The companies that helped us build this Freedom Ranch are not just local. And I'll share because it's okay, because they did it. Maytag Corporation donated all the appliances for this property. I had a big furniture company donate all the furniture for the property, and it's a lot. And I had a Hayfield Windows donated all the windows on the property. When the owners of these companies, and I got right to the top when I had these conversations, when the owners found out what we're doing and the problems with this, and they didn't know, somebody's got to get that in their ear and go, this is what's going on in this country. Will you help? Can you provide these for us? And they stepped right up.
How many organizations are there in your neighborhood or your area?
There's another big group home. I believe they have 3 of them in the Brainerd area, but we're also a big area for adult and teen challenge, and they have a men's home and they're completing the women's home right now. It's a very active community as far as helping and providing that safe place. I just think it's a very amazing, amazing community.
So you have 8 beds and you can provide shelter for 8 girls and provide for them, make their lives better, give them all the love. Now comes the ninth one. What are you going to do?
Our license will only allow us to have 8 at a time. That's what
Well,
the state of Minnesota allows
per home.
per home.
Right. No, that's why I asked how many such organizations exist in your neighborhood or your town or your state. So, what happens? How many are neglected in our country, right? Because we look at it as a country problem, and it's not a Minnesota problem, and it's not your area problem, but it's a country problem. If the country can only help 10 girls, where's the 11th one going?
Exactly.
Where can we get an answer for that?
This is where the tricky part comes in. In order for us to house 8 girls, our language and our licensing is very specific. It is girls age ambulatory girls ages 12 to 17 rescued out of human trafficking. Some of the other beds in the state are labeled abuse, domestic abuse or sexual abuse, but not necessarily human trafficking. So with those labels, if that bed is labeled for domestic or sexual abuse, a girl that's been trafficked cannot stay there. So it's really about the language. And I find it incredibly frustrating because these girls are abused. They are homeless. They fit into every category, yet that bed is not labeled specifically for human trafficking.
I have been interviewing organizations such as yours in the past 3 days, and if an outsider can point out and feel that there are these huge holes, where do we get our answers from? And what do we do about those holes? Or do we just turn our faces to the 11th girl or the ninth girl and say, you're on your own right now. We don't have room for you, so go get abused more.
They don't show up necessarily physically at our location, but they're in the government social services system. They might be sitting at a police station, they might be sitting in a other type of state services organization, but we get the call. If we don't have the room for a child, we'll just say we're full at this point. There's nothing we can do. The answer would be more funding, more locations, more Freedom Ranch types of facilities. But because short term, I personally don't. Short term is great; it gets some temporary relief. But in my opinion, if they go into a shelter or a home or something for a day or two, and then are back out on the streets, they're going right back into the same situation. And chances are it's more physical and more abusive after a day or two. Yeah.
Exactly. So yesterday I was interviewing a wonderful person, very intelligent, very well organized, from an organization called 318 in Bismarck, North Dakota. And I was discussing this with her as well. And I seem to agree and learn from her that the problem lies in the two ends, which is the younger education we need to teach the kids, and the older you teach them how to stand up on their own feet so they can make their own money, so this way they don't have to go out for sex trafficking. And I think that the focus should be there. Of course, your love and care and your process from the time they do get abused to the time they do leave your facility is so important. But I think the focus should, I think, and I'm a layman, I think the focus should be in education, and the focus should be in teaching them how to stand up on their own feet. um, and I think that, David, I would definitely go out and reach out to all the other contacts that you've spoken to me about, and hopefully all of you guys can come together and form a governing body, so to speak. So being united, I think that you will have more strength with the government than being separate. Everybody understands the same issue. Everybody is agreement with the same issue, that there's a lack of education which requires funding in order for us to teach our young children, and there's a lack of funding to teach our older elders, or not elders but older girls, to stand up on their own feet. And that's where the government should come in and help us out. And I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. I'm not saying that they're not. I just don't have the knowledge to say whether they are or they're not. But bottom line, I think those should be the two places where we should focus on, and that can be done if everybody joins forces. Um, I really appreciate the two of you getting on and speaking to me about it. Please tell our audience where to find you. If you can give us your website, your telephone numbers, your social media. So please go ahead and do that now. So this way, when people do see your interview, they will see that they can reach out to you in case they know someone who's being abused, or they know that somebody needs the help.
So our website is www.risinghopefoundation.org. And my email is Vicki, Vicki, from Rising Hope at gmail.com.
If they want to reach us, mine is 612-554-4804. And then Vicki is 612-978-1832. And whether it's just to have a conversation about things we've talked about today or something else on your mind, please give us a call. We'd love to have a conversation with you.
You guys are heroes. You guys are doing such an amazing job. And thank you for taking time out of your life to help others. That, to me, I think you're a gift to the society, to this world, to all of us. And I really appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate it.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk with you.